Welcome back again to the Inside Line IndyCar podcast presented by IndyStar. I am editor Aaron Ferguson, joined by our insider, Zion Brown. And boy, oh boy, what a spicy weekend. I quote tweeted one of your tweets, and all I said was spicy. I think Callum Ilott had the same idea after the weekend wrapped up and said it was spicy. And you thought we might not have much to discuss after the Grand Prix, and you're the one who reached out and was like, I think we need to do a pod. So here we are. Happy Monday. Cars are back on track tomorrow. So we'll see if there's anything that happens around the paddock after this weekend. Zion, what was kind of like your gut reaction when you had a chance to settle down and think about what happened this weekend at IMS?
Man, I mean, so much more occurred than anybody probably thought occurred. Even if taking what we knew, whatever happened on Thursday, which we'll get to at the top 5 press conference, if you had said right when Alex Palou won the pole on Saturday morning, or I think it was early afternoon, I think it was a little bit afternoon, but when he won the pole, I think everybody kind of was just like, all right, like we kind of write the story about the rest of the day. He's going to win the race again and blah, blah, blah. But then we get to the presser. There's more drama again in between qualifying in the actual race, since qualifying got delayed to Saturday morning, and then the race was full of drama before, during, and after, really.
Yeah. Insane. And I think, we could start anywhere, but I think we need to start with the Alexander Rossi full course yellow that wasn't. And then it was. 20th lap, he stalls there on the home stretch. And what was it? I think it was close to 90 seconds before a caution was dropped. And there was confusion all around. Rossi was pissed. But I think the most fascinating thing to me is like, okay, you put drivers and teams and spotters in this really tough position where it's like, it's still green. We see Rossi sitting there, but it's still green. So we can race for position, but others are going to be preparing to pit. And it just seemed like there wasn't clear communication at all.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to get to with the Rossi situation, but he forced them to throw the full course yellow by stepping out of the car when he wasn't supposed to. And I would like to believe that if he wasn't literally hugged up against the pit lane wall, that he wouldn't have just walked out of his car during a live track. But I think because he knew, as long as he got out, there would be no danger. I think he was fine with that. But a car stops in the fastest part of the track, right? It's the road course, not the oval. So the only part of the track where you're getting over 150 is just that front straightaway. I get it. It was out of the way in a way because he was hugged up on the wall for pit lane. I talked to Kyle Kirkwood earlier, and he said he didn't feel like Rossi was necessarily in a lot too much danger, even though it was just not a good decision. But at the end of the day, like I said, that's the fastest part of the track. I know it was a local yellow, but no one understands quite why there was not a full course yellow until Rossi forced them to throw the full course yellow by getting out of the car. I get it. There's race strategy at play, and about once you throw that yellow, the pits close, and what that could do to those who needed to pit at that time. But safety should come first, as I think most people should be able to agree with. That safety should come first, and just logic should come first. There's a car completely stopped that cannot go anywhere in the middle, not the middle of the track, but in the track on the fastest part of the track. Rossi was, like you said, heated about it. He was heated about the hybrid. He said, it sucks to have your race in because of something that nobody asked for. And so he's never shy to mince words and say what he feels. When we know whenever the podcast comes out between him and Hinchcliffe this week, we'll get even more on that. But just a ridiculous situation that affected this race quite a bit and really was probably the more talked about after the race than the Christian Lundgaard winning the race that was.
Yeah, I feel like Christian Lundgaard winning, like, God bless him. his second win, and he's like the biggest footnote of the weekend. And we'll get to him in a second, but more like a few minutes and then a few more after that. But like, we have this independent officiating board come in, and they have their hands full. And we were talking just before the show started. Scott Elkins, who was hired to head this team up, his first day is today, Monday.
Yeah.
And this has to be addressed. And what a sticky situation this has become for the independent officiating board, but also IndyCar. Because like you said, safety has to come first. It doesn't matter where this car's at on the track. Like you said, it's the fastest part of this course. But also, as I mentioned earlier, like Kyle Kirkwood and Alex Palou had like a whole, it impacted them.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's also a safety issue with the teams who are like, okay, are we racing or are we not? Like if you're put in that limbo and someone's going to race, but someone else is like pulling back because they think a caution or they know a caution should be coming. Like I think there's a weird mental conundrum there as these drivers who they probably know where Rossi's at and they probably know the situation, but they don't know like why isn't it yellow? Like they have their own indecisiveness that they are trying to work through. So I think the IOB has their hands full here. I think race control, there's some questions that need to be answered this week, whether we get them publicly or not. Like there's some conversations that need to be had, I think.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. That can happen. And I can't remember when it got on the track and even what part of the track it was, but for multiple laps before that even happened, there was debris out on another part of the track that I thought was going to cause a yellow. And they just made the drivers kind of work around that for, I don't know, 5 to 10 laps, whatever it was. At least I can understand that, right? Like that's also a safety issue, but not necessarily putting a driver in safety, like in danger in the way that Rossi might have been in danger. So at the very least, you can maybe convince me that was okay. But to have Rossi just stranded there and in a very vulnerable position was ridiculous. And then you brought up what happened with Alex Palou and with Kyle Kirkwood. There's the video on Kirkwood's onboard when he goes almost through the pit lane exit, right, off course, and then he thinks the pits are closed. So he gives a little bit of a mow back to the grass to get back onto the course. And of course, by doing that, he dropped multiple positions in the race, and then he still kind of worked his way back up. But then another one of those poor pit stops by his 27 crew really ended any small chance he had after that. And then the similar thing happened with Palou, and those two pit boxes were right next to each other this weekend. And after the race, I talked to Kirkwood, and then Palou was like further down the track, like pretty much about to leave the track and head back to the garage paddock area. And I kind of tracked him down. But before I started talking to Palou, Brian Herta, of course, the strategist for Kirkwood, was kind of making the same trek that I was making. And there was a conversation between Herta and Palou and Julian Robertson, the engineer on the 10 car, and Barry Wanser, the strategist there. And they were all just trying to figure out what had happened, because obviously in the thick of the race, they weren't really able to pass notes necessarily. But after the race, all parties involved were like, well, how did that happen? And it was just, once again, they thought it was a full course yellow. From Kirkwood's side of things, he told me, hey, they go off of the Fox broadcast most of the time to understand what's going on throughout the track, just because it gives you more camera angles than just about anything else you're going to have, right? At IMS it's good, but at most other tracks, like you're not getting as many camera angles at most other tracks as you are at IMS. But so they were going off the Fox broadcast. Fox showed a full course yellow at first. I believe I didn't get this confirmed. I believe that is a direct signal or score or timing communication that goes straight from race control to the Fox broadcast. I don't think somebody from Fox is manually putting that graphic up. So I think that even the timing in the race control graphic didn't understand what race control was doing at first. And so they put up full course yellow when it wasn't. So it was a mess. It was a big mess. And it shouldn't have happened. It should have been corrected or done correctly right at that moment. And it ends up, like I said, putting Rossi in that danger, ends his race. His race wasn't ended because of this, but it ends his race. And Palou, who everybody thought was going to win, finished in 5th. Kirkwood, for the first time this year, didn't finish in the top 5, dropping down to 9th. And it helped lead to what we eventually saw later in the race.
Yeah, and interesting that their pit boxes were close to each other, because you know who weren't? Roman Grosjean and Marcus Armstrong. Roman Grosjean allegedly wanted to punch him in the face. Marcus Armstrong told Fox that he wanted some UFC, that Grosjean was posturing for some UFC MMA type fight going on. Why? What happened?
So we don't know exactly what happened. The best maybe explanation of this is the drive-through penalty that the drive-through avoidable contact penalty that Marcus Armstrong had to serve on lap 33. I think a couple laps before that, there was some sort of contact between him and Grosjean. I believe it was an issue where Grosjean, for the rest of the race, had an issue with his suspension and wasn't really able to keep up to speed. He finished the race at 21st. He was the last of the remaining running cars in the race, and Marcus Armstrong finished it at 11th, even after serving that penalty. So something happened between them then, and then Grosjean was just not happy about it whatsoever. And like you said, their pit boxes were 10 spots away from each other, which at IMS is quite a walk, right? Like those are larger pit boxes, and you kind of gotta make your way over in a hurry. And Grosjean did that. And there were multiple members of the 66 pit crew who were just kind of holding him off. And eventually he did get face to face. No contact was made, but it was just like, for me, like I said, I was down there on pit lane. They're on the other side of the track. Aaron, I promise you, until I got back into the media center, I had no clue that happened. Like, I get back to the media center and I get back onto Twitter and I'm like, what did I miss? Like, what in the world? So a surreal situation. I don't know if you saw the Scott Dixon video. Did you see this?
Mm-mm.
So Ganassi, they give Scott Dixon like their social media people. They gave him like a phone, or it might have been a GoPro, but just to record like a selfie video, like 30 seconds explaining his day, blah, blah, blah. Scott Dixon has no clue in the background of his video what's going on. Like you can see the Grosjean Armstrong kerfuffle in the background of this, like Scott Dixon, like, we just got to keep pushing forward type of video. And it's like these guys are just going at it in the back. I thought that was hilarious to watch, but nobody was expecting it, right? I don't think anybody who was on the track in a car or even, on a pit stand or a pit crew or a timing stand had any idea that was about to go down until it went down. And it was just like I said, surreal and still kind of mind-boggling why Romain Grosjean was so upset.
So you have had numerous opportunities to talk with each driver. So I will ask you, you've been able to size them up, stand next to them. Who, if we're doing a free-for-all, a battle royale, survival of the fittest, which driver wins if we're just all-out melees at the middle of IMS?
Well, you immediately go to just the two biggest, or the two tallest at least, drivers, which is Graham Rahal and Joseph Newgarden. Right, like you meet Graham Rahal does not look like Graham Rahal looks like he participates in a different sport than the other 24 in the field, right? Like the first time I met Graham and I was like face to face with him, it's like, oh yeah, this is by far the tall, and by far he's only I think 6'2.5" maybe. But compared to someone like, I don't want to call anybody out, but I will say Tino Ferrucci, it's like it's a different world, right? So those are the first two that come to mind. I've never seen Palou super mad, but he is pretty built, right? Like he's pretty strong. So those are the three that come to mind. We've seen in the past, whether it be here in IndyCar or in F1, Grosjean has the capacity to get a little bit fired up, right? Like he's not super big necessarily, but I think in fights, what is always underrated is that a lot of times whoever is more angry wins fights, and I think that matters. So I'll put Grosjean in that category. So between those four, I would say, if I power ranked them, I'd say Rahal, Newgarden, Grosjean, Palou.
There's the odd setter right there. We got it. Who's too nice? Who would just like bow out and be like, nah, I want nothing to do with this? Because I feel like there's a lot of drivers who would just be like, I'm good.
The first thing that comes to mind is Felix Rosenqvist. I mean, Scott Dixon, especially at this age, I don't think I know he and Will Power had their thing a couple years ago, but that was initiated by Will Power, who I would also probably put pretty high in these power rankings because, once again, Will Power gets angry maybe easier than anybody else in the paddock. Yeah, I definitely, first thing that came to mind was Felix. I think he's the one that's just like, and too nice might not be how I put it, but nobody really has issues with Felix Rosenqvist, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't. I when I was thinking through that, Scott came to my mind, but also Stingray. I feel like he's just
Yeah,
very cordial, very nice guy.
fair.
All right, well, that was the curveball for this episode. Just kind of like randomly thought of that. Uh, I mean, again, we're gonna get to Lundgaard eventually, and actual racing, but the push to pass fallout is just. I mean, it was great theater for someone who wasn't there. Um, uh, for those who may or may not remember, push to pass accidentally enabled at Long Beach. 12 drivers used it, including Alex Blow, who became the center of this exchange on Thursday.
Surprised that only half of the grid used it. Very surprised.
Well, you guys must have an indicator because like all your cars used it.
No, Scott didn't.
No, I know, but the Shank
nine-
cars did. You guys did. The 8 car.
The 9 didn't use it.
He must have not seen that indicator.
Oh, okay. I pressed
See,
it.
he just.
I pressed it 3 times, and I'm surprised I didn't press it more. There's only 3 straight, so yeah, I don't know. I'm very surprised as well that they pinpointed at every single car that used it when it was not our fault. It was IndyCar's fault.
All right, let's set the record straight. Everybody would have used it if they known it was active. Like every driver would have. I wish I would have known it was on because I would have used it. So.
I got told.
You got told that it's
I didn't
active
use
and
it.
to not use it.
No,
Why? No or yes?
I did not use it.
Why?
But you were told it was on.
Well, because you know the rule, man.
Where's the rule?
The rule of, well, that's the problem why they changed the rule.
No, the rule is that it won't be
It
active.
does, yeah, but it doesn't say that
It doesn't say that you will penalize.
I get it.
Oh,
No.
okay. It's
No,
a big
no.
difference.
No, I know. It does. It's not explicit that the drivers cannot use it if the software allows.
Okay, somebody
get
in
it.
IndyCar f***s up and it's my fault.
No, I'm not saying it's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Because the thing is that if Rosenquist overtakes me and I lose the win, it's like, oh, we're very sorry.
no.
We're going to change the rule now.
No, like, I get it.
And it's very different. I feel it's
I
very,
get it.
the confusion here, it's very different to what happened last year or 2 years ago. Was it last year or 2 years ago? 2 years ago where somebody else changed the code, but we're talking about someone not pressing a button or pressing the button, and it's not on us to know if it's active or not. I press it.
Well, I hope you got your answer somewhere there.
Yeah. What was the question again?
So yeah, that was their reaction to Bob Pockrass, who, as you heard David Maluka say at the end there, was kind of brought that to the forefront on Thursday from Watkins Glen. He wasn't even there in person, but Pockrass trading some drama off of Zoom.
Yeah. And that was obviously Alex Blow talking. And I think it was mainly Kyle Kirkwood and Pato O'Ward going at him. And David Malukas was just sitting there.
Yeah, well, which you don't even see in that video because of the way it was framed. They did at the time who was 1 through 5. So to Pato's left, you don't even see in that video. Christian Lundgaard said nothing during that interaction. But yeah, that's what I found funniest about the video is David Malukas. Like, I think between him being the youngest of the guys that was up there and him being on Team Penske now and that kind of coming up, I think he didn't really want to. He made jokes like he would like the thing he said to Bob, but he wasn't going to truly share his opinion the way those other 3 drivers were in that moment. But it was just, it's something that we get every now and then in IndyCar because it is so much different than most sports where it's like, yeah, these guys who compete against each other do press conferences together, right? And so every now and then we get something like that. And you mentioned Pato going against Kyle Kirkwood, but I did find it interesting that Kirkwood alluded to maybe the Ganassi and the Meyer Shank cars because they have their technical alliance. He alluded to them having some sort of indicator that he didn't, right? And obviously those are all Hondas, right? Even Kyle Kirkwood with Andretti. So, but he, in a way, right? He didn't call them cheaters necessarily, but he kind of hinted at, hey, are you guys doing something in there you're not supposed to be doing? That started the back and forth, right? Where Pelot's talking about how Dixon wasn't using push to pass, and so he doesn't feel like there was a quote unquote indicator. But I don't know, Kirkwood was maybe a little bit more skeptical.
Yeah. And that's what I thought was interesting too, was like Pato was talking and then Kirkwood would like slip in a one-liner that was, if you listened for it, you could actually hear it. And it was like, oh, you see how Kyle feels about this. And it was kind of subtle, I felt like, but also like bold enough to get, not bold, but like strong enough to get the point across. But yeah, that was fascinating. And like, I thought that was going to be the end of the push to pass thing, which they changed the rule that it's now available. And then qualifying was moved to Saturday because of a lot of rain on Friday. And guess who's starting out front? Alex Palou and Pato Award, which led to this exchange.
You knew that we can only use it.
No. I knew that it was not enabled. End of the story. If it's enabled because someone else does a mistake.
No. The reason why people didn't get penalized is because the screw up.
So there was no rule.
No, you went into the gray area and you got away with it.
Gray area.
Yeah.
What did the rule say? It's not going to be enabled on restarts.
The problem was the rule didn't say anything.
So it's no gray area.
Yes.
How?
Because at the end of the day, the same action that Joseph got crucified for.
It was not Joseph's fault. It was the team fault. If the team is cheating,
no.
It's not because of the driver.
What do you mean?
Joseph or the drivers did nothing
If you
wrong.
know you're using it when no one else is using it.
I always press it. That's how I found. Yes.
Why? In case it works?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, maybe that's why I'm not winning races.
All right.
No, honestly, like the rule was not specific. That was the problem.
No, it was very specific. There's a new rule now.
The rule now is specific, but it wasn't specific.
Yeah, it's not going to be enabled.
Like everything, the usage landed on straight IndyCar.
Correct.
So
if you use it as a driver and it's enabled because someone did a mistake, it's fine.
Use it today. Give me a toe.
The issue today is that you're putting on ourselves when sometimes it's a reaction. If you use it for like half a second, doesn't make any difference. You're gonna disqualify someone for using it when it could be a reaction of like pressing a button.
No.
Yeah.
No, purposeful. Where do you have yours?
Here.
I have mine here. I mean,
It doesn't change. Like I think now, well, whatever.
Pato, with that, thanks for coming.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack just in that short clip. First, I did not understand why people, like reporters in the room, were laughing during this whole thing because I thought it was a pretty intense exchange. Like that's how it started out, and it kind of gave them an out to like laugh at themselves.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely more intense than Thursdays. Thursdays, despite me saying that, Kirkwood may have alluded to potential cheating or something, Thursdays was more lighthearted than this one was. Yesterday or Saturday, 2 days ago, was more kind of like, what are you talking, like just more straight ahead, straightforward. What are you talking about between these two guys? Mm-hmm. I mean, Pato made himself clear in both of those clips, right? I knew the rule, which was you can't use it on the restarts. So whether or not it was allowed to be used on the restarts for Pato, he didn't use it. Palou did use it because it was available. And in spite of the rule, and even Palou, before that clip on Thursday earlier, because that clip was about maybe halfway through the discussion on Thursdays, he didn't realize that the rule had been changed. That the response, IndyCar called it a responsibility update, basically saying it is the driver's fault now if they press it when they're not supposed to. And until that press conference, either he was lying about not knowing it, or he legitimately did not know that it was his responsibility now until that press conference, and then until they had a driver's meeting that happened later that day. But he wasn't aware of the rule update in that sense. And clearly, even after learning in both clips of it, he doesn't agree with the update that it's now on the drivers to press the button at the right time. But no, there's definitely some animosity between those two. And I think regardless of whose side you may land on in this argument, I think to me what it shows is just like the annoyance and frustration of these guys losing to Palou as much as they have. You know what I mean? Like I do think I think if David Malukas won in Long Beach and he was found to be one of those 12 names, I'm not sure we get that same confrontation that we did because Palou won and he was one of those 12 names. I do think there's a sense of, all right, like this guy is already has a great car, already has won all these championships, and now he, in this situation, the Long Beach situation, got to use something that not everybody on the track used, and so there's a bit of annoyance there. I don't know if Pato or Kirkwood certainly wouldn't, but I don't know if Pato would go as far as to say he feels like Palou should have been stripped of the win in Long Beach, right, or anything. But I do think he is just a bit frustrated with the fact that he seems in his mind is doing things the morally correct and the ethically correct way, whereas Palou is, like he said, taking advantage of that gray area and getting away with it.
Yeah. One of the things that stood out to me, and it's something I've actually thought about before this even happened, was Palou admitted that he pushes the button even when it's not activated just to see if it works. And like what I have thought about was, one, does this happen? But two, like I'm big on like the mental side of sports too, where it's like I feel like so often when I was younger, I heard people say, don't waste your energy with unnecessary actions. So like to me, you're giving yourself, if you know the rules, you're giving yourself something else that you're thinking about that like could distract you in your mindset if it does accidentally work. And then like it takes your train of thought somewhere else. But also like you think about the focus of driving, like even just if I'm driving to go visit my family 4 hours away, like there's a certain level of driving, a focus of driving that I have to have, whether it's on like 2-lane roads or 4-lane roads. Got a little bit of a lead foot, so I'm looking out for that, driving in the rain. So that could be a little hectic. So like you already have to focus. They're going at these incredibly high speeds. Like I would think you would want your attention on like you don't want to waste movements and you don't want to waste your thoughts. Like I think it's such a hyper-focused sport. So I was really surprised to hear that. But it did confirm one thing that I was wondering. Like what else could you be doing? Like, why are you pushing that in the first place if it can't be activated then? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
But if they're told it's activated, that's why they're doing it. I said this last week. Connor Daly said the same thing on his podcast. Obviously, Connor not being full-time, he won't even race in any of the street or road courses this year. But he said when he did, right? Like, yeah, if it was already pressed it, like to him and to the 12 drivers who use it in Long Beach, it was as simple as that. And to Kyle Kirkwood, as he said himself, like Kyle Kirkwood and none of the Andretti guys used it in Long Beach, but Kyle Kirkwood said if he had known, he would have. I don't think the interesting part in this situation and in St. Pete, going back to that, is that Will Power didn't press it in either of those situations. Because you go back to St. Pete and his teammates, Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin did. Now, even on a new team, Will Power didn't press it. So I didn't get to talk to him about this, but I would assume he kind of feels the same way Pato does, where it's like, if you know the rule, just don't do it. So that's kind of where I would assume Will Power lies in that. And even though Kyle Kirkwood, his own teammate, stated something differently. But it's something where you get to this level of motorsports and most of these guys get to it by needing some sort of edge in a way. And so for those who feel the way that Alex Palou and Kyle Kirkwood do, that is the edge, right? Like if there's a line to be towed, tow it and see how far it gets you, if you can get away with it. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think it could be as simple as that. And but yeah, I just thought the whole thing was interesting. And I definitely thought on Saturday that because they knew they were supposed to be side by side for most of the race, that Pato and Palou were trying to get in each other's heads there. You hear Pato say, pushing today, right? Just kind of like egging them on and whatnot. I definitely thought the two of them were playing some mind games. Whereas Thursday, I think it was just a genuine conversation about it. Mm-hmm. Saturday, I think, was more calculated on both sides. But then we didn't even get to see Pato up at the front because of the little first crash or the first lap crash that happened.
Yeah. One more thing that stood out about that exchange that I feel like is worth highlighting. Alex brought up Newgarden at St. Pete in 2024. And like in the same breath is like, it's not the driver's fault. Whose fault is it then? Because you're the one doing the action.
Well, and that's where my question or my point about Will Power comes up. In St. Pete, it was a coding, not an issue, but a coding loophole that Team Penske was able to find that allowed Newgarden and McLaughlin to illegally push the button. I don't know whether it was a situation where maybe they only figured out how to code it correctly on those two cars and Will Power was just kind of left out of the mix, or if they told Will Power, hey, to press it, and Will Power kind of declined to because he did not want to break the rules. I'm not sure how that went down. But that's what they both made that point. That's what they were trying to say. That's what Pelot was trying to say, is that it's a different situation because in Long Beach, IndyCar made the mistake, essentially. And the way IndyCar corrected that mistake was by getting rid of their own rule, which I thought was funny. Versus in St. Pete, it was the drivers and more specifically the team that made the mistake or that purposefully bent the rules and altered the coding in order to get an advantage. And this is me, and I'm not here to put Joseph Newgarden down or anything. Like I thought it was funny how he came up in both of these conversations, but I think he specifically wants to put this behind because it has been over 2 years. And just in general, I'm not here to allege that Newgarden and McLaughlin are cheaters either. Even though I know a lot of fans want to do that and they believe that.
Right. I guess like where my mind comes up is like if the rule is the rule, like at the end of the day, someone has to make the final decision whether or not to use it. And if it's within the rules and if it isn't, like I think that falls on the driver, whoever the driver is. Now, should there have been penalties at Long Beach? I don't know. IndyCar chose not to because it didn't really impact much on track, and I'm good.
Well, and are you really ever gonna penalize 12 drive? Are you gonna disqualify 12 drivers in a 25 driver race? Like you just can't do that.
Right. Is there a different penalty they could have done? But now it's a moot point because, like you said, the IndyCar pulled an NCAA and just undid their own rule.
Yeah.
So
and the only issue now is on starts, and then if you're pressing it before the alt start finish line on the restarts. But other than that, maybe that will come. I don't think it'll come up on starts at all, but maybe that will come up on another restart later on this year. But it'll be less likely than it was in Long Beach.
And I don't even think we brought this up on the former pod, but like one of the things I was thinking about is like, okay, if you are always pushing the button, again, I was thinking about this before it came up in the pressers, but if you were always pushing the button, like you now have to retrain yourself to not always push it. So either you're lying or like you really are putting yourself at somewhat of a disadvantage now because you know, I don't know. Again, the mental side of sport that I think about sometimes that I'm just like, okay, something here is not connecting. But we didn't, on the rundown, we didn't even put the I didn't even put the lap one crash on there. And you just mentioned it. It kind of took Pato out of it, even though it was going to be seemingly him and Pelot battling it out for the road course race when they both started out front. And then he gets collected as part of the part of that crash that started the whole thing off.
Yeah. Unfortunate situation. Felix Rosenquist just had to lock up. Felix, who, qualified row 2 again, right? I know row 1 in Long Beach, but up at row 2, and like it's like, okay, he's going to put together 2 really strong races back to back, and then literally turn 1, locks up and basically eliminates from contention of the race himself, Pato, Scott Dixon, and then I don't know if Kyle Collette would have necessarily contended for the race, but he had made the Fast 12 for the first time this year, and he got taken out by that as well. All those drivers stayed in the race at the time, but none of them had a chance to win after that. And then actually Felix ended up exiting the race on contact even later on in the race when his car went airborne for half a second. later in the race. Not a great weekend for him whatsoever, but yeah, just unfortunate. Once again, specifically for Pato and Scott Dixon, who Pato, I thought even before we got to qualifying, I thought he had the best chance to overtake and pass below and stop him from winning a fourth straight. And of course, Scott Dixon, we know how his history at this course has been, and we know what he's capable of doing. And unfortunately for those who they weren't able to compete in the way they would, Scott Dixon still made his way up to sixth. But still not the day I think any of those four guys involved in the crash were envisioning.
Yeah, and finally we get to Christian Lundgaard, the poor guy who won the race with a pass of David Malukas on lap 68, the mild-mannered Malukas of the weekend. And Lundgaard, who I guess, like as you said, was also mild-mannered during that viral moment Thursday. The race itself, I mean, certainly entertaining for a road course race that isn't always. But what did you make of just Christian being able to pull this one out and take control really in the last 16 laps or so?
Yeah, and for him, I think he got lucky and was also skillful to avoid that lap one crash, because he was P4 to start the race, and P2 and P3 go out, and he finds a way to avoid it and stay right in the thick of things. He talked about that. He talked about how upset he was for Pato, but at the same time, just is fortunate and glad that he was able to stay out of that. But yeah, it's a big win for Christian Lundgaard. Made the pass lap 68. I'd be curious. I don't know if that was better than Kirkwood's pass on Palou and Arlington, but so far this year, those are the top two passes for the lead, right? That we've seen this season. I think I probably would lean Lundgaard's personally, because that turn 4 that he made the pass on Malukas on is not really a place where we see a lot of passes like that. And for him to make it and avoid making contact, right? Like as he was going into it, I wasn't quite sure if he was going to really get around him. And Malukas talked about it. He's like, maybe I should have defended more, but he didn't feel comfortable putting both of them in danger of the race ending in that moment. And because David Malukas, he felt like he was going to get caught regardless, I think is kind of the way he put it, because he was down to, at that point, under 20 seconds left to push the pass, which I think was pretty much the lowest in the field at that point. So I think Malukas kind of conceded that he would have given up that battle for first place, regardless of if he was able to defend Lundgaard in that moment or not. So excellent stuff from Christian Lundgaard. Finally gets his first win with Aaron McLaren, second of his career. And he's their leading driver in the standings now, right? I know we all expect Pato to always be the best driver there, and I've seen some chatter on the internet about is Lundgaard the quote-unquote number one there over Pato? I wouldn't be able to go that far, but it's a big win for Lundgaard, who Tony Kanaan has been open and vocal about how he and Nolan Siegel are in contract years. Of course, Siegel is kind of being put under more of a microscope, but this Aaron McLaren team has 2 spots to fill for next year, and I believe Lundgaard still wants to be around. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. And to get so close, right, so many times, 8 podium finishes in the first 22 races he had with this team. In race 23, he finally gets a win and puts himself in a good spot to continue to prove to this team that he's worthy of keeping around.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, that was a good decision by Malukas to not try and defend in a way that it sweeps them both out, because there would be some major points implications there.
Exactly.
Right now, I'll run through the standings. 9 drivers are within 96 points of 8 drivers are within 96 points of Alex Palou, who leads the way at 237. But going back from there, you got Kyle Kirkwood, 27 back, Malukas, 52, Lundgaard, 55, Newgarden, 75 back. That's your top 5. Then Scott Dixon and Pato O'Ward, both 89 back, and Scott McLaughlin and Graham Rahal, 96 back. And so clearly there's a tightening there in different pods and different groups. But I mean, you've mentioned this several times, like the ovals are coming. Like there's plenty of time for this to sort itself out in a different way. But again, your top 4 is 4 different teams, and you've got 2 Hondas and 2 Chevys. So just really just a fascinating chase at this point. And I think one of those names, Graham Rahal, I said it today in the office. I told Nat, I was like, Graham Rahal is putting together a nice little season for himself. And podiums, you mentioned it on last week's show, RLL has done very well at the road course, and he continued that.
Yeah, he sure did. You mentioned the team as a whole. Louis Foster, who we talked about needing a good performance, finished 7th, so his first top 10 of the season, and his highest finish of his career through 2 years. So once again, this team is good here. But going back to Graham, yeah, we talked to him last week, and I brought up to him how at that point he had already had as many top 10 finishes this year as he had last year. So he's now surpassed his amount of top 10 finishes already through just a third of the races of this season. Having his best year in quite some time. Still a long way to go. Still has to keep it together, but I think you're starting to see some of the changes that team has made. Bringing in Jay Fry to lead the team after he stepped down as IndyCar president, and Brian Barnhart. All these changes they've made are paying off specifically for Graham Rahal. And I don't know if I would have expected to say this coming into the year, but I think his name is one to watch for in the 500. It's been a few years since he's really contended for a win in the 500, but I think based off the track record he has and so far this season, and based off what he was able to do in Phoenix, and that was a pretty good weekend for him as well, the first oval of the year, I don't think it would be ridiculous to look at Graham Rahal as being on a short list, or maybe an extended short list of names who could win the race.
Yeah. And if you missed our last episode, we did talk quite a bit about the 500 open test, but credit Zion for this idea. We ranked the one-off drivers from likelihood of best finish, or not ranked. We snake drafted. So kind of a ranking. So that was fun. I think it adds a little bit more as cars get on track on, Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday, so it's tomorrow for us, but depending on when you listen, highly recommend that episode. So that was a quick plug. I wanted to go back to Dennis Hauger, who was the biggest mover of the day. What was it? 16 spots, I think.
Yes.
He won at the road course in Indy Next the year before, obviously a rookie this year. And I just ran through the standings, but he's 15th, and he's only 7 points behind Will Power. So he's quietly putting together a nice season. He's well ahead of Kyle Collette and Mick Schumacher in the Rookie of the Year race. And, he's had a good start to the year, and now gets to try the big one.
Yeah, great result for Hauger. His best result so far this year. And I once again, I feel for Kyle. It's like he has a chance to maybe finish in that top 10 as well, and really have his breakout moment of the year. And it's ruined to no fault of his own because of Felix Rosenqvist. So I feel for him there. But really cool to see Hauger just move his way up throughout the day. You talked about it last week. He was good here last year, winning that race, and it's a track that he's good at. I mean, he's a road course guy, really. So impressive to see from Hauger. I brought it up earlier on in the season. I want to say after the second race of the year, second or third race. But this is a guy that we know Andretti has its eyes on in a way because of the fact that he raced for them last year in Indy Next. Got the call up with Dale Coyne, and I think Andretti and maybe another premier team or two might be looking at Dennis Hauger and saying, is he worth an investment for next year, and somebody we can sign and see what he can do in one of these, 8 to 10 great cars of the series. So yeah, I think for him, it's just about continuing to put these good results together, and seeing where that leads him. But very, very impressive performance from him.
That was my special shout out I had to throw in there. I know you have another from a Team Penske driver.
Yeah, it's been quiet since he won in Phoenix, but Joseph Newgarden just sticking around, right? When you talk about these standings, now back up to 5th place, was able to jump over Pato Award after Pato finished 18th in the race, but a P4 for Newgarden this weekend, second best of the year behind that win in Phoenix. He's just lingering around, and as much as we can talk about, hey, the ovals are coming, let's see what Pato does on them. Joseph's nickname isn't the Oval King for no reason, right? So, when you talk about having 5 more ovals, a chance to win his third 500 in 4 years, he's around. He's firmly in this bit of a hunt. Obviously, everybody's still hunting Alex Palou, right? That's not something you can just do in 1 or 2 races. You're going to have to put together quite a good string of performances. But Newgarden has continued to keep himself in a position to do so. And this year is just beginning for him a lot better than what we saw happen with him and that Team Penske team in the beginning of last year.
If anyone has a bone to pick with this next driver, it's me, because I have been banging the drum on what should be one of the great storylines of this season, and that's Will Power going to Andretti, and certainly I'm sure some animosity, even if he won't admit it, and it's probably more in like the back of his mind now toward Team Penske and how that all shook out. But I kind of just like, he had great success at the road course throughout his career. I was like, you know what? Maybe he gets it, because when his car has been good, it's been good. There's been errors throughout the way. And I was dealing with our fever coverage Saturday before the race. And so I just checked the qualifying order and I was like, oh, not great for my pick because he's last. Yeah, it's been a rough go of it for Will, and it didn't get any better.
No, not at all. And again, it's just every weekend, it's like, we don't come on this podcast and say, oh, his car wasn't fast enough, he didn't have the pace. Is there something with him or the team that leads to a poor result? And I guess you could say in this case, his car wasn't fast enough in qualifying. So you can say that much, but he's going on this, similar to what he's done in Arlington and even in the Oval at Phoenix, just going off of this, separate strategy from some of the other contenders. And he kind of benefited from the break that we talked about with the Palou and Kirkwood situation, how they got kind of left behind by the Rahal, local yellow / full course yellow debacle. Will Power made his way to the front of the pack, led the race for 15 laps. I'm not so sure if he would have been able to win over Christian Lundgaard and David Malukas. You asked some people, they thought that he was the favorite after that, but he takes his last pit and just lost part of control and got dinged for an improper pit exit, and that ended his chances of winning this race. And once again, I still feel like it was a small outside chance that he was going to win, but he was there. He had a chance, right? He had a chance to win the race, or at the very least contend for a podium spot. Instead, we're talking about a P13 finish for Will Power, and once again, just not being in the top 10 of the standings. And it's just hasn't been the year for him. P14 in the standings just hasn't been what he really wanted to kind of not turn his career around, but just turn it around for what happened last year and really prove that he's the same guy that he had been in the past. And again, it's like, this is the last guy to beat Alex Palou in a full championship season. It was 4 years ago, but this is the last guy who's been able to do it. But this year looks like another year he'll come well short of really being able to do that and challenge Palou for that championship spot.
We'll see, though. It's May. Anything can happen, especially with the big one coming up. We had planned on taping this well earlier than we did, but we received not quite 5 p.m., but a good old afternoon news dump from IndyCar, which the main point, I guess, is they're going back to Arlington in 2027. You were there. We talked about it, of how you may get some brisket and how some of that may have been, splattered, if not for a possible error. But all in all, I think it was, at least as a spectator from home, I thought it was a great race. And you mentioned Kirkwood's pass of Palou. Like, I thought that was, to me, I'm trying to think if there's been a better moment this season in terms of contention, because I thought that was the best pass of the season so far. And it's a long course. Everything's bigger in Texas, so it's a very long course. And yeah, you excited to be going back?
Yeah, no, it'll be a cool race, and this is by no means a surprise or anything that they're coming back here, right? That was kind of guaranteed. So we covered kind of what Arlington was like when it happened. To me, the most interesting part of this is the scheduling part of it. So the race will be back on March 21st. of 2027, which is a week later, essentially, than the race happened this year. IndyCar has still actually not re-signed with St. Pete. I have no reason to believe that they won't, but this year was technically the end of their St. Pete contract. But I assume that'll still be the first race next year. Not sure what the date will be. If it will be that the end of February / first day of March thing like it has been this year and the year before, or if they'll go back a week in March. But essentially, IndyCar wants to go back to Phoenix. NASCAR, of course, owns Phoenix Raceway. And what has happened is now the NASCAR schedule will be a little bit different next year as far as timing goes. The Super Bowl is a week later, which means the start of the NASCAR season, Daytona 500, will be a week later, which means now when NASCAR gets to Phoenix, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it will probably be a week later than last year. So I think if you're wondering maybe why this Arlington race is a week later next year than it is this year, I don't think it's because they're like adding another new race in there. I believe it's because they are trying to, IndyCar that is, work things out with NASCAR just so they can get that joint Phoenix race again. I think IndyCar wants to go back to Phoenix. I don't think it wants to do it without the support from NASCAR necessarily, doing it as a joint race, because you look at the attendance and the excitement for that race. A lot of the notoriety IndyCar got from that was just because it was able to leech itself to NASCAR. And that's not a bad thing, at least not in my opinion. So I feel like IndyCar is kind of trying to work toward that and making sure they can align with NASCAR. So just as a contingency, essentially, they have moved Arlington back a week to try to fit that in next year. But I thought that was interesting that we got the date and we learned that that would be the date. It would be a little bit later in March than it was the year before.
And that's the Fox partnership paying off too.
Yeah. Wonderful point. Yeah, no, that matters because you've got to obviously make these deals with Fox in mind about when they can broadcast things. And Fox, I'm sure, really wants these joint NASCAR IndyCar weekends really as much as they can get them, just so their broadcast can cross promote. I know they cross promote anyway every week, but it's easier to cross promote when you could say, hey, the NASCAR race is tomorrow. And by the way, here's a Ryan Blaney standing behind Scott McLaughlin's timing stand, like things like that. I think really help them. I think they want these series to at least have one joint race a year going forward, as long as both are okay with it.
And also, circling back to this Grand Prix weekend, Super Bowl commercials, the IndyCar Fox promos. It wasn't the Super Bowl this year, but the NFC playoffs aired some of the Fox promotional commercials. Are we going to have Pato and Pelot spatting as part of the bit?
Maybe. I don't know. Got a lot of season left, I guess. So I don't know who else could be. I mean, the Grosjean thing. And if you want a visual, I feel like the Grosjean Armstrong thing looks like more, confrontational than just a conversation. But I don't know. But then again, Grosjean and Armstrong aren't your two most popular drivers at the moment in the way that Award and Pelot are. So maybe that'd be cool.
Rossi. I mean, people love Rossi.
You can pick your choice with Rossi incidents that are. I mean, they still play. They still, whether it's on a broadcast or a commercial, they play him getting out of his car last year with the fire at the 500 and chucking off his gloves and his helmet. Like they still play that. So yeah, I think Rossi from this year, that would be a great the image when he like puts his hands up as he's coming out of the car. That'd be a good one to roll.
Yeah. My mind goes strange places on the fly sometimes, but they've got some content. They've got some stuff to work with. And we've got some stuff to work with. Like I said, Cars on Track Tuesday. I can't believe it's already here. That's insane. But the other bit of news we received is the qualifying schedule. Without bumping planned, it's still going to be 2 days. They just had to tweak it because 33 cars, So 11 a.m. to 5:50 p.m. Saturday, May 16th. We will have positions 16 through 33 settled. The fastest 9 cars from the Saturday session will go straight into the top 12 Sunday. So that kind of confusing, but then that leaves 10 to 15. They will begin at 4 p.m. Sunday qualifying. And then the top 12 will go after that at approximately 5. And then the fast 6 at approximately 6:35 on Sunday. So pole position also gets 100 grand. So not just pole position up for grabs, but your thoughts on the qualifying schedule?
Yeah, before I get into it, I also got the email today. Alex Blow, it has 40,000 on the line if he were to be the back-to-back winner. That Borg Warner pot got put down because Joseph Newgarden finally did it a couple years ago, but it had been 20 plus years. So I think Newgarden got, I want to say close to $500,000 because nobody had done it in 20 years, but then it resets when nobody wins back-to-back. So unfortunately for Palou, if he wins the race, he won't get as much as Joseph got. But yeah, on the qualifying schedule, we talked extensively, about how there won't be bumping. And so, of course, you have to change the schedule. Without it, I think it's probably the best they could have done. Aaron, I still couldn't get an answer on when this monster truck world record thing is supposed to happen. I have no clue, but I guess I don't even know if it'll be broadcast. So I assume it would be, but I'm not sure if it will be. But if you're there at IMS this weekend, watch out for that at some point, I guess. But yeah, they had to change up the schedule a little bit. I think they did the right thing rather than figuring out who's at the very back on Sunday and trying to act like that's dramatic without bumping. Just get it out the way on Saturday, and then that 2 hours basically of time, 2.5, 3 hours on Sunday can really be the main part in seeing who wins the poll and just who does what. So I think timing right. Maybe I would have put something else on Saturday. Maybe I would have just gotten to just the top 12 in the Fast Six on Sunday. But as far as the order goes, like they did the right thing with that.
I'm looking forward to it. We were talking with so it was me, Nat, and our intern Jessica, who her first day was today. She'll be out at the track, big race car fan or big racing fan. We were talking today, and Nat was like building up bumping again, even though we're not going to have it this year. I was just like, Nat, you promised this last year, and we knew who was getting bumped. Like, it was not fun. Like, it's not that it wasn't fun. It was just like oversold and under-delivered on expectations, at least for me. And so it was just like, why are you still hammering this home? Like, it's not going to happen this year. Let's just get over it.
Yeah, no, it is a done deal for this year. I do expect it to be bumpy next year. I know some people at home won't roll their eyes, but I think I said it last week. This being the last year of that chassis and the engine, like, what do we? If you're a team or if you're Honda and Chevy, for Honda and Chevy, it gets to a point where it's too much, right? But just in general, what are you holding on to this equipment for if you're not going to use it again after next year? So I feel like we'll get an okay amount next year, but this year it'll be the 33. Despite the main effort was to get to 33, and then anything else in IndyCar's mind was a bonus, and they didn't get that bonus. So thanks to Formula One for scheduling the race in Montreal, for ruining our chance at bumpy.
Referring to Colton Herta,
yes,
not being able to drive for Andretti, and Andretti thus not entering a fourth. Yes, thank you, Formula 1/2/ all of them, for that. But you know what? That's okay. We'll go with the 33 we've got, unless there's a surprise entrant between now and Friday night. So
yeah, there won't be, but that is in case there is, it's Friday at 6, I believe.
So anyway, this has been another. We're creeping into longer episodes now that it's May. We're at the fun part of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you get these officiating scandals and the episodes get longer. So let's IndyCar, let's not have an officiating scandal this time around for the 500.
Well, you don't want to talk to me?
I mean, I do want to talk to you, but do I want to talk to you about a driver finishing second on track and then getting pushed back to 30th in the race? No.
That's fair. It's like a little Red Sox-Yankee scandal. I almost brought that up earlier. I almost used the Don Zimmer, Pedro Martinez analogy that we haven't had that yet. But, maybe that's coming next. Maybe that's where we have to stand here in IndyCar.
That would be something. I mean, for whatever reason, everybody seems a little bit on the edge. I don't know why, but it definitely. I think maybe the amount of races we got before the 500 this year maybe has
could be
caused some more anxiety in the paddock. But from all the confrontations we got this weekend, it's been like, wow, how did that go down? So
yeah. And your predecessor Nathan said in our chat the other day, usually this happens in like June, the dog days,
right.
where you're on track for 6 weeks in a row. And yeah, you're right. We've been at this. We've had more races than normal at this point in the year, but also like there was quite a bit of a lull between March and the road course. There were only 2 races in like 6 weeks. So maybe they're just happy to see each other again and wanted to express that in the most impassioned way.
I guess. Hey, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know why this is happening.
All right. Well, that's enough yap for this episode. As I mentioned before, we talked last episode about the 500 quite a bit, just the open test. And also we did a snake draft of the one-off drivers and how we think they'll finish with a little bit of insight, #analysis. So feel free to go back and listen to that episode. Beginning tomorrow, Zion and our fabulous producer, Clark Wade, are going to be producing Pit Pass Live from the track. 7 to 10 to 15-minute episodes each day based on whatever happens. Some will be short, some will be long, just depends what happens on the day. They'll have bullpen interviews, analysis, reaction to everything that's happening out at IMS between now and the 500 and beyond, honestly. So go subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts. Go subscribe to the YouTube page, IndyCar or IndyStar TV IndyCar. There will be far more than just the show there too. There's going to be interviews from the medical center whenever a crash happens. There's going to be bullpens. There's going to be a lot more. So Zion provides analysis of each day, whether it's here at home in Indy or he's at a race at Long Beach or wherever. So be sure to go subscribe to that, share with your friends. And as always, you can find our written content on IndyStar.com. I know we're launching at least one, maybe multiple 500 related stories tomorrow. So yeah, it's May. I said this last time, it's finally May. Now it's like May and we're into the thick of it. And so we appreciate you all for listening. Appreciate you all for continuing to read our coverage and watching us and finding us wherever. And let's go freaking have a month, huh?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.